my colleague Anisha Mathur. She joins us from Toronto. She's been there for the last several days. I hope she's not planning to immigrate to Canada and just stay over there and not come back. Anisha, good morning. Welcome. We've been looking at your reportage very carefully.
Good morning.
How is Jaishankar's address at the UNG and his subsequent interactions at smaller conferences being perceived in Canada? From what I can see, Justin Trudeau now under a lot of pressure to lay out the evidence and to prove that he has some material evidence to back the wild charges he made.
Well, Rahul, here in Canada, we're seeing a very strange situation where the ordinary person on the ground, the ordinary Indian origin citizen on the ground, is saying, well, we don't want to get into this debate. We don't support Khalistan. There's some gangster, there's some very small amount of people who are supporting this, but at the same time, they will not come out and oppose it because they are worried about the ramifications against them. So it is very clear that there is something that the Canadian government also needs to be careful about, because if this ordinary citizen is not ready to speak out in the open, but is in the drawing rooms, in their in public places, talking about how this is not a good thing, how this is creating a lot of tensions among the people. This is something that, as our guests have been talking about, the Canadian government needs to look at very, very carefully. We've seen instances of, in the last 2 years, if we look at the history that has been happening, this issue has come up on a this issue is getting traction in Canada over the last few years. More importantly, there have been attacks on journalists, there have been vandalism of temples. There is a question of why these people have the kind of, have been allowed to amass the kind of influence and money, and more importantly, even political backing that they do, because this ultimately is coming from a very, very small number of people, according to everyone I've spoken to here, that it is only about 5% of the Sikhs here who are talking about it. In fact, they're connecting it to gang violence, they're connecting it to to drug trade, they're connecting it to immigration fraud, they're connecting it to a lot of things, but what they're not doing is speaking out in the open. And Trudeau and the other MPs here, of course, they are being accused of vote bank politics here. That is this something that they're looking at? Because the ridings here, which is what they call the smaller constituencies, the ridings here have when the votes are counted, the election results change by a factor of just a couple of thousand votes. And that is what the people here seem to be indicating, that because of the influence that these people hold in the local gurdwaras, in the local trade of the main cities, like in Brampton, in Surrey, in several other places, that is why they've amassed the kind of influence that they have, and that is something that is worrying the ordinary citizen of Canada. And Trudeau, of course, is being questioned repeatedly by the people as well as other. It is a very interesting phenomena. Rahul, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you well. Quickly wrap up.
Sorry, just two sentences. If you see the parliamentary proceedings, even the MPs here are at one hand asking Trudeau for the actual evidence, but at the same time, they seem to be not wanting to rock the boat as it seems, is with regard to their voters and their constituents. So it's a very strange situation we are seeing here, where they're at the
Now, this is an important point that you're making.